Good afternoon and welcome to the second concurrent session of the day, Customizing Hawks Courses for Any Environment. Our presenter today is Taylor Ireland with Hawks Learning. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. We're also giving away 3 $25 Amazon gift cards at the end of this session. To enter for a chance to win, click the link in the chat to enter your name onto the prize wheel. And on that note, I will hand it over to Taylor.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you to everybody that has joined me today. As she mentioned, today's presentation is on customizing your courses for any environment with Hawks. I'll first start off with a brief introduction. As she mentioned, my name is Taylor Ireland, but I did want to share a little bit more about who we are at Hawks if you have or have not seen an overview of the student platform, just to give some reference to and contextualize what I'll be covering later on in the presentation. So first and foremost, especially with customizing your courses, you want to make sure that you have a really great support system behind you. And this is really where we shine at Hawks. We offer 24/7 support in the form of live phone support Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time, with extended hours at the beginning of the semester. And that phone number that you get is what we use and your students use, so it's all one line. Secondly, we do offer a 24/7 live chat option. So when you are getting your courses set up and maybe you're working on this outside of our main phone support hours, you can still contact us with any questions that you may have. And then we do offer unlimited training and support where you have a designated representative for your school. We're happy to do as many trainings as needed in order for you to feel comfortable getting started with your course in a new semester. Secondly, what I want to mention, since some of you might be teaching different disciplines, is our overall affordability of our materials. So something that Hawks does differently than other publishers is offer lifetime access to our software. So once students purchase that access, they have it for life. It's never going to expire. So they can go back and review and use it over a multi-course sequence with only having to purchase that textbook option one time. For most of our singular courses for purchasing directly through Hawks, that ranges from around $50 to up to $110 for a 3-part calculus sequence. But for more information about specific courses and pricing, head on over to the Hawks exhibit booth and we'd be happy to answer any of those questions for you. Last but not least, Hawks is our lessons take a unique mastery-based approach. So we follow, our lessons follow a mastery format with included adaptive remediation, which I'll jump into in just a minute to describe a little bit more about that and how that's set up before we get over into the instructor resources on how to customize those courses. So that being said, I'll jump out of here and jump into the student platform. So I will share on the student side of things an English lesson, just in case we do have some humanities faculty with us today. So to jump in first, as you can see here, this is our main dashboard page of the student platform. They would be able to see their English class that they're enrolled in, and maybe they're also in college algebra. So both would pop up on this main dashboard page. But whenever they go into the course that you're teaching, they have this comprehensive to-do list that would include all of the assignments that you have selected for them to work on. The first area where you would be able to customize in the student platform is with this to-do list. You can break this out into units or modules if you want students to be directed automatically here to kind of have that broken out how you do on your syllabus. You can customize each one of these headers. Now, jumping into a specific lesson, we'll go into professional writing. You have customization options for each one of these 3 modes. You also have the ability to renumber and rename each lesson at the course ID level, which basically means that it would make those changes for everybody at your school and in your department using that specific lesson. But it is something that you all can discuss and make it sure that it's titled accordingly to your objectives. Now, to start off with, I'll go through each one of these 3 modes to, again, describe a little bit more about our mastery-based approach, but ultimately to point out those customization options that you do have So then once we get over to the instructor side of the platform, you kind of understand a little bit more about what I'm talking about. So first off, the learn mode is the textbook or ebook content, and we integrate that directly within the lesson so that students are more likely to go and reference this content. It's going to include definitions, examples, different interactives for the student to work with, and I'll just click through a few of these pages. And also some activities that students can fill in the blank or print and bring to class. We have helpful hints, reflection questions, and then in mathematics, we also offer example level videos that have an instructor working through a problem on the screen. Those are also offered in some lessons of our economics titles. But ultimately, what I want to share in terms of customization of this first mode of learn is that you can completely edit and customize all of the content that's being presented to the students here. So if you have a different way of approaching a certain topic and want to provide a different definition, you can completely replace any one of these Hawks pre-created screens with your own authored content. Secondly, you can just supplement any one of these pages with your own added content as you see here, where you're keeping what we've given you up at the top and then just embedding those different notes, videos, lecture PowerPoint slides, and so forth down here at the bottom. And then lastly, you can completely hide a page. So if it's a portion of the lesson that's really just not overall relevant to your curriculum, you can just hide that with a check of a box as well. So you can really customize exactly what your students are receiving in terms of that instructional content. While we're still in Learn, I do want to mention that we do offer lesson level videos up at the top left for all of these lessons. Since this is a new edition that hasn't been fully released just yet for use in classes, we don't have that video included here, but they are for every lesson and every title. Now, outside of Learn, the next mode is practice. And practice is where students will go to really just practice with the content. It's an ungraded environment. They have learning aids to use, and they can also ask for help as needed. So for any one question, and I'll go ahead and answer this, we're stating which of the following is an example of professional writing. So I'm going to select this first option and email to a friend notifying them that an upcoming concert was canceled. Submit my answer, and within practice, students can see that their answer was wrong, but then they also have this feedback that they can select, explain error, to help them understand more specifically why their answer was incorrect. So for math, we have this really specifically added in, as in you added 2 to the left side versus subtracting 2. And we really want to be specific and intentional with the feedback that we provide students so that they can use this as a learning opportunity to help them go back to practice and then reattempt that same question, or click this try similar option to try a new version. So as you can see, these scenarios or options have changed. Students can also skip over any questions. And as you can see here, for our humanities disciplines, we will offer some other types of questions versus just radio button or multiple choice. This includes click to select, as you can see here, and also click to insert for English for those grammar lessons. But if they do get to a question and they just don't know where to start off with, they have this tutor option at the bottom left that for humanities and some economics questions, that was going to provide them with a helpful hint. The helpful hint may provide them with a relevant definition, or in this case, also an additional example so students can learn how to apply one of these concepts in a similar context to take all of this information and then go back to practice and then answer that question on their own. We really just want to give them that push in the right direction, but not give away the answer. Now, up at the top right, they do have Learn to go back and access right from here, and this would include any of those customizations that you make. And then also a solution or answer to every question is also included here as well. So going back to practice, the other optional settings that you have that's not turned on in this course that I have is a send to instructor button. So that's a way that you can customize depending on if you want it turned on for your online sections or turned off for your face-to-face sections. The send to instructor option will take a screenshot of this question and send it to you through a messaging system. It might be a great way for you to connect with your students if you are teaching any online courses. Now, outside of practice, the last mode is Certify, and Certify is just as it sounds. It's going to be an opportunity for students to complete the actual graded assignment. So as you can see here, the mastery is set at 80%, and Certify is the exact same question types that the student already worked on in the practice mode. So we're not providing them with anything new. These questions are still testing them on those same learning objectives. The biggest difference is that we've now given them a new version of that question type. So we're blocking them out from the exact version that they received in practice. And now these questions will be scrambled around in a different order. The biggest difference between the two modes is that at the bottom portion of the page, as you can see here, we've taken away all of those learning aids to hold students more accountable for really understanding these concepts in that homework assignment. We want them to demonstrate their understanding and master in this lesson so that they are more fully prepared come quiz or test time. What we see oftentimes is in the homework, students have access to those tutoring and learning aids and resources to access. So if they need them, they're going to use them to help them answer that question, complete that question and get a green check mark or a 100% on that question and move forward, but they never really understand it on their own. So when it does come time for the quiz or test in the course, they're not performing at that same high level. What we want to do is help bridge that gap. We want to make sure that students are more fully prepared. So of the set number of questions that are in this lesson, which is 10, the student can miss 2 questions or as many that are indicated by this heart meter to the top right, and still achieve mastery and receive a 100% full credit grade on this assignment. So 2 questions, still achieve mastery, and they can move on to the next lesson that they need to work with. If they miss the 3rd question, however, they will be removed from the Certify mode and automatically placed back into practice with a custom set of questions based off of what they had missed here in Certify. So we want them to go back for adaptive remediation. We want them to address those specific skill gaps, only those questions that they didn't know. They can use those resources once again, maybe go back to learn or visit you in office hours, and then come back to Certify and reattempt the set again. Ultimately, students have the opportunity to reattempt Certify as many times as they need in order to achieve mastery and to earn full credit, as long as they submit that before your due date if you have any lesson penalties on there or late penalties on there. So a couple of things to mention before we jump over now to the Instructor platform to walk through those different customization options that you have. While we're still on the student side, you do have the ability to hand select the questions for practice and Certify. So really customizing that to your curriculum. You can also adjust the mastery percentage on a per lesson basis or for all lessons across the board at once. And then you also have the option of requiring this practice mode, and a couple of different choices here where they aren't allowed to jump into Certify and attempt the homework until they've gone through some of practice first, or you can allow them to attempt mastery or to allow them to attempt Certify and achieve mastery. And if they are unsuccessful on their first or second attempt, then it makes them go through practice before it unlocks the homework again. So I'll kind of touch more on these customization options and where to find those within the Instructor resources and Instructor account as we jump over now. So let me log out here. And what I'll be logging into on this page is my Teach account. And if you haven't seen an overview of the Hawks Instructor resources in a while, we released a new single sign-on login for instructors. So you'll enter in your school email and a password when you create your account. Sign in, and then for your courses, you'll see those grade books for all courses that you're teaching with Hawks pop up here on your Teach dashboard. One nice thing is that for any customizations that you make, you can toggle back and forth to your gradebook through the Instructor dashboard, which is what we're on right now, and then toggle back over to the student dashboard to see what those customizations look like in that student view. So you can get enrolled in your own section to kind of make adjustments accordingly based off of what you're seeing yourself through the student dashboard. So I will be jumping into this demonstration gradebook for college algebra, so kind of switching gears. However, as I've mentioned, the system works the same no matter what course that you're teaching. The only difference is really just the content within the gradebook or within those lessons. On this main page here, I want to highlight, and I will re-highlight later on as well, the support that you have with Hawks. So at any point in time, as you are customizing or getting your course set up in between semesters, or maybe even for the first time, as you can see, our help and support center is right and readily available here on this main page of the instructor gradebook. So you can access our 24/7 live chat, give us a call, or even go to our website. But all in all, we want to make sure that you have the resources and help that you need. On that note as well, with the help tab over here at the top right, we have a lot of resources for you to access. This using the online gradebook is basically a Wikipedia search page for you to search directions for anything that you're looking to do. Again, you can sign up for a training or contact that help and support center. So we provide you with a lot of help and resources that you might need to get started on your own. However, if you ever want to connect with us, I do emphasize that we're here and readily available to help you implement whatever you are looking for in terms of customizing your course. So to start off with, as we get into things, I do want to touch on the tools tab. So I'm going to work right to left here. And with tools, the only thing that I really want to mention is that when you're getting a course set up and started with Hawks, you'll go to tools and then set up each one of your sections. Why I want to specifically point this out is because when you create any customizations, you have the ability every single time that you set up new sections for that next semester to just copy over. You'll add a new section here at the top left. As you see at the right-hand side here, I can just copy over all of those settings from my initial master course that I had set up or initial template of the course that I had set up. So once you get things customized in Hawks and really tweaked to your liking, you don't actually have to recreate that every semester. It's already done for you. You can just push it out to all of your new sections. You also can do this to push out your customizations to other faculty that are looking to use that as well. And push out all of your settings, or with what I'll share later about our templates in our gradebook, you can share just portions of the customizations that you've made as well. So I'll undo changes. Now, after you get a section set up, you'll want to enter in your grade settings. And again, kind of why I'm coming to show grade settings, it seems kind of basic and not in the meat of customizing those assignments. But I do think it's important to mention that when you are creating anything through Hawks, we're going to automatically set you up with lessons, quizzes, and tests. You can customize any of these grading groups here and have a pop quizzes category or maybe a total final exam category. So you can add to or remove or rename any of these categories as you see fit in order to structure your grading and your gradebook the way that you would like for it to be. Hawks also makes it really easy for you to drop the 2 lowest lessons for students automatically and include that in the grade, or mark anything as a bonus as well. Now, outside of that, for those lessons that I just walked through at the very beginning, you can set up late penalties for those. And this is where I want to mention our template format. So just as I had mentioned under the tools tab that you can customize and create all of your templates throughout the gradebook to share from semester to semester with yourself or with your colleagues. Maybe your colleague wants just your late penalties or just your homework due dates for the semester and nothing else. That's the benefit of the template format. So if I find for my Math 101 section that I really like one of my colleagues' templates to assign, I can just select this dropdown, select my colleague Joanna's template, and then save my changes and move forward from there. You also have the option to set up anything as you would like to on your own. So with the late penalties, you also have the option of customizing these to be between a fixed penalty where it's going to take off a one blanket score. So it's a 100% fixed penalty. They're going to get a 0 if it's late. Or you have the option of setting up a graduated penalty where it will decrease their score the longer that it's overdue. So now getting into more of the fun stuff and customizing those assignments, we'll jump over to the assignments tab. And this is where you would go to edit and customize anything that your students would probably be most interacting with. So to start off with lesson due dates, again, this is really where you would just go to select what you want to cover and when it's due in the semester. So as you can see here, I have a due date template set up. I'll go into my section to review that. And we make it really easy for you to assign those homework lessons with Hawks. So if you don't have any interest in customizing the Learn, Practice, or Certify modes, all you need to do is select what lesson you wanted to assign and at what point in the semester that it's due. However, you do have some additional options with these. So I'll show those additional options. If you're running more of a self-paced course or format, you do have the ability to assign any lesson by just checking it with no due date corresponding to it. You also have the ability to assign something and not include it in the grade, and mark when you want those assignments visible to students. So oftentimes, you're always expected to cover way more content than you would love to be able to within a 16-week or maybe even an 8-week course. Time is really limited. So if you wanted to underwhelm or not overwhelm your students with all of the assignments that they need to complete, you could put in those visible on dates so that the student wouldn't see these lessons until January 10th. So they see only 2 weeks in advance. You can also adjust the points here, and then similarly set up prerequisites. So if you want to ensure that students mastered in lesson 1.1 before lesson 1.2, you can just set that up as a prerequisite so they can only unlock lesson 1.2 once they've gone through and mastered and certified in 1.1. With any template option, I do want to mention that you can choose whether or not to share your templates with other instructors as well. So let me undo my changes here. That is pretty straightforward. And so what I want to jump into next is the actual test generator, I guess you can call it, or question bank that we have to offer. Any assignment that you're looking to create and customize outside of those lessons would be done through this web test link. So web test is in general just pulling from our overall question bank for your title. You'll want to select the create new option. And what this does, again, is pull from the overall question bank. And something worth noting is that this is going to allow you to not only create online assignments, but also you can just print anything that you create right from this page as well. So if you are wanting to just create a 5-question worksheet for students to work on in class, you can still use this tool for that purpose. So with going into our default curriculum, you would see the table of contents for your title. And then you can have Hawks create an assessment for you by selecting each lesson that you want covered and then how many questions you want overall. But what we typically see done is instructors actually selecting the lesson to go into to then customize from here by hand selecting all questions that you want included on your assignment. So with this, as you can see, we give all of these questions to you in an easily scrollable format. So it's always best to create assignments through Hawks by just coming directly to web test and pulling open this question bank for any lesson and adding them over in this way, because it's automatic and you're doing that work for the assignment that you're creating. So with any question, if I want it included in that assignment, all I need to do is click that plus or add button and it will pop over to the right-hand side to that assignment that I'm creating. As you can see with some of these options though, you do have the ability to see the answer, see any new algorithmic generations that the student might have for that question. And for any math question, we do offer up to 50 different versions. And for humanities and economics, it's around 25. However, something that I do want to mention, if you are assigning this as an online assessment or practice test even, students are automatically going to get those new values. For anything that you want printed, it would be the value that is on the page. You can customize the amount of points per step for that question. And then if you wanted to filter and sort out this list in any format, you have that ability to as well, or collapse all of the questions to then scroll through them this way to look for a certain learning objective, or at any point jump back to the main chapter up here at the top left and go into a different lesson to choose and select questions from. Now, on the right-hand side is that assignment that I've created. Once this loads for me, I'll add over a couple more questions. So now I can full screen up at the top right the assignment that I've created. If you want to go through and check everything, you can just easily scroll through. But another option that I love that you have available is this view summary. So if you wanted to see, what lessons that you've chosen questions from and what level of difficulty those are to make sure that you have a good variety, you can easily pull this open and then see what point totals you have as well for each section to make sure that it's evenly matched if needed. So now on the right hand side, you have all of those same options as you did on the left hand with the questions. However, you could mark any question as a bonus question. You can lock that value so that you're ensuring that every student taking this online assessment is getting this exact version of the question. You can lock the order of your test so that it's not randomized, for another online assessment. And then in this actions drop down, you have the ability to cluster or pool questions. So with that, you would just select which questions you want to pool together, cluster those, and then students would only receive one of those 2 questions on that online assessment. The last option here is this enable show work. So right now our show work is a per question option that you can enable or disable. What it has students do right now is type in to describe what steps that they took to show that work. However, we do have some exciting updates coming later this year where students will be able to upload images of their work that they've done. So that's coming soon, and keep that in mind. Now, when you're ready to export or print this assignment, you do have the file print up at the top left. What I love is this option to export to a docx file where it becomes completely editable. So another opportunity for further customization by you. If you wanted to reword the question slightly or maybe give an additional answer option, or for those multiple choice question options that we have here, if you wanted to change one of those answers or make something that we have only in a free response format, multiple question based, you can make all of those edits. All you need to do is export it to that Word doc file, and from there you can add in or remove anything that you see fit to then print and administer to your students. That's such a great option to use if you want to really edit spacing and everything for those printed assignments. Now, lastly, what I want to mention are the different options that you have in terms of assigning this as an online assessment or practice test or assignment just in general through the Hawks platform. So now I'll take something that we've already set up here. And as you can see, once I select this, what I'll want to do is enter in some general settings overall. So that's going to start here with the general settings link. And general settings, the only one that you need to add in for your students is the start and end date. So basically when it's going to open and when it's going to close them out from taking that assignment. You can password protect, set up that test link, and also give them multiple attempts as needed. Select which group that was going to be graded in, and then you can even mark anything as a bonus. So maybe you wanted students to take a practice test and give them some bonus points for that. That's a great option. Next up, you again have that opportunity to set up prerequisites for your course. But underneath additional settings, you can choose when students can see their grades, if and when they're allowed to review those tests. For math, give credit for unsimplified answers. And then we also have a pass-fail or a diagnostic testing option. Once you've set up all of those settings, as you see best fit for each particular assignment, what you would want to do is select this assign option up at the top right, and then assign that to your section. One thing that I do want to note is for a lot of our titles, we do offer pre-created diagnostic assessments. So for English, we offer grammar diagnostic assessments. We also offer Chapter 0 math review assessments that are already created for our economics title, and then some chapter review assessments as well for psychology. So if you're ever interested in any of those and having them uploaded into your gradebook for use, we'd be happy to do so. And you have the ability, once that's uploaded, to further customize to your liking. So as I mentioned, on the student side of the platform, you could customize that to-do list. You would do so right here through that student to-do list. All you need to do is type in the header that you're wanting, such as Unit 1, and then drag and drop those lessons underneath for where you want them to be organized. Next up, I want to go into curriculum. So when you're interested in actually customizing the learn, practice, and certify modes of any particular lesson, that's all done through this curriculum link. So it is separate from the lesson due dates. As you can see, you can have a curriculum set up if you're using our calculus book that has Calculus 1 and Calculus 2, and you're teaching both. You could have a Calculus 1 curriculum that you use and customize, and then alternatively a Calculus 2 curriculum that you customize as well. So jumping in here, all of those settings that I had mentioned are all of these checkboxes up at the top. So this is where you would turn on that require practice option here. You can turn on Flex Mastery, which is another great option that will allow students to reattempt a missed question and certify with new values instead of receiving that strike. So by default, if they get a question wrong and certify, they lose one of those strikes or lives. By turning on Flex Mastery, you're going to allow them to reattempt that. Sometimes we definitely recommend this and think that it's a great option if you find that your students do make small mistakes, but ultimately have a good understanding of the content. You're kind of giving them that second attempt to prove what they know. Over at the right-hand side, this is where you can change mastery, or you can do it on a per lesson basis here down below. You can limit the amount of pauses students have to certify. And then another thing that's new within the past year is a student certify reviewer. So basically, if they master or do not master in Certify, they can go back and review the exact same questions that they had received, what they had answered as those questions, and kind of see the tutoring feedback for any incorrect answers. So it's a great way for them to take ownership of that learning process and really go back to see specifically what they were missing. Down here, so when you're going into the Learn, Practice, Certify actual content itself and wanting to customize that, you'll want to select these hyperlinked lessons. So we'll just go into 1.1 real numbers, and this looks very similar to your assignment builder tool that we saw through the web test location. On the left-hand side, we have the question bank specific to the lesson that we're working with. And on the right-hand side is the actual assignment that's already been created. So as you can see, we already have questions preloaded on the right because this is what's in our default curriculum for Certify, or Practice and Certify. So for any question that doesn't fit your objectives for the course, you can just select remove. And for any question that you wanted to add in on the left, you just click add. So it's very easy and simple to really customize and hand select those questions. But what else is nice is this occurrence column. So you could actually collapse this to see which questions that I still have available to pick from to add over. But with our algorithmically generated questions, you could always add over the same question twice. They're just going to get two different versions of that. You can easily search the question bank by or for a specific learning objective. And then you do have the option up here at the top to make scaffolded assignments where you're pulling from questions in other lessons, or alternatively, choose your own instructor created questions, which you can do through our question builder, and that's what I'll jump into here in just a minute. Up at the top right, again, you have the ability to customize that mastery percentage right from here. And then when you want to customize what's in Learn, that's where you go to the gear symbol and you can open that Learn mode from here. So I think customizing things can seem a little daunting sometimes, but we do want to make it as easy for you as possible. So when I said that you could hide the screen and it's just a checkbox, it really is just a checkbox up here at the top right. So, you can just hide the screen and that's all you need to do, save your changes, and now this objectives page wouldn't show up for students. Similarly, you could just replace that screen page and then type down here whatever you're looking to add in, or select neither one of those options and type down here what you're looking to add in, as well as those additional notes that will pop open in this short window just as you see here. We do have plenty of directions and unique implementations of these Learn screen notes, or what we call them, such as adding in simulations or videos and how to do so. So if that's something of interest to you and you have some things that you would love to get integrated, just let us know and we're happy to help and send over those directions and walk you through that process. So outside of customizing the homework lessons, the last thing that I kind of really wanted to touch on was the question builder tool here. So Question Builder is a tool that we have provided you that is what our internal teams actually use to create any new Hawks questions as well. And we wanted to make it super user friendly. So if there is something that you're looking for, you could immediately get it added in right when you have that time to create that question. So some things that we recommend in terms of creating your own questions is using these folders and being very specific and intentional with what you're naming them. So as you can see here, we have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and when going in there, we'll see different questions that we have created. One thing that I do recommend though is just to go ahead and say lesson 1.1 questions on this, so that whenever you're going to pull from these questions, you know exactly where to go to access what you're looking for. So once you go into Question Builder and create your folders, you will have the create option up here. And then this is going to open up how to create different types of questions. So up here we have the question header. So this might be directions and round to the 4th decimal place. And then you'll have your function or statement down here that's included. So this first option is optional, but you do have the ability to create multiple choice question options as you see here, and marking whichever one is going to be correct out of those 4 options and what credit. You could even have one question be worth 50% and the other question be worth 100% if you wanted to give partial credit yourself. And then you also have free response-based questions, which we typically see being used for mathematics. So that's when the student is going to enter in the math down here. And we do have some advanced options, so you can kind of edit what you would accept as a correct answer. We have open-ended questions, which would be more sentence-based, so the student can actually write and type out their answer. Maybe that would be more so used in our humanities disciplines or interpretation for statistics, for example. We also have click to select, as I had demonstrated on the student side, and click to insert questions. So you can create anything just like we do here at Hawks. Now up at the top, we have a couple of options. So when you go to enter in that question statement for math, we do recommend that you use this expression builder. And so if you aren't familiar with LaTeX, we give you some documentation, but this is how you can ensure that your question is being made accessible. So that's something to keep in mind. And since accessibility is such a hot topic right now, if you have any questions that you're creating and you want to be completely sure that it is an accessible question, just let us know and we might be able to pass that over to our accessibility team to check in for you. Anything else about Question Builder or the other thing that I wanted to mention about Question Builder is the fact that you do have a graph builder to use as well. So you can create your own shapes and enter in different settings for that, such as the size and the grid lines. So you do have a lot of options here that we've provided you to really add in your own course content in this way. The last thing that I want to mention is that you do have a variable table that you can use, and you can add in images. So the best part about the variable table is that you can actually create up to 50 different iterations of your own questions. So we don't want you to only have the ability to create static questions where it's just one question and one answer. If you're familiar with Excel and formulas, you can make those formulas through Excel, copy and paste those values over into your variable table in Hawks, and then have 50 versions of your own questions. Similarly to that, we also do give you the ability to add in a hint or tutor feedback, such as the step-by-step, enter in a general explain error, and then add in the answer as well. So we want to provide you with all the tools that you need to really create some unique new questions yourself. And then outside of Question Builder, what's left is mostly reporting options. And since we're in the instructor gradebook and we have a little bit of time, I'd love to cover just one report with you all. So if you're interested in what your students are really doing within the platform and how they're interacting with the lessons, we have this really great assignment reviewer tool over here at the right-hand side of the page. And what Assignment Reviewer is going to allow you to do is take a big picture look at class performance, but also allow you to take a more micro look at individual student performance or how they're performing on certain questions within a lesson or web test. So down here below, we'll have, as you can see, a brief snapshot of who has certified on time, submitted that late, or has submitted or has not yet completed that assignment, and their average time spent in learn, practice, and certify. Now, if I want to go into any lesson, I can just select that lesson. We'll again go into lesson 1.1, and now I'll see a list of my students in my Math 101 class. I can sort this score column to bring up those students that have not yet mastered, see how many attempts that they had at Certify, and then their amount of time that they spent in learn, practice, and certify. So if you're using Learn in a really unique way and using that as an attendance tracker, or you put a poll in there of some sort, you could easily just come and cross-reference here to see who actually went into Learn to read that content, or maybe watch a lecture video if that's where you have them posted. Then you would be able to see that Eric is the one in the class that hasn't yet done so. Maybe you want to message them separately just to make sure that they're able to access all of that course content. Now for analytics with the lesson, we have the item analysis is going to pertain more so to those question types. So if you have customized and added in any of your own questions through that question builder tool, you could see how well students have performed on it through here if you have assigned it to any lesson or web test. So what this snapshot is going to do is going to show you at a brief glance how many students got that correct versus incorrect. And when you scroll down, you can take a peek at that learning objective and what difficulty level that question was. The nice part about this is that, this doesn't give you, the serial number doesn't give you a lot of information about it, and we have to organize it in that way since they are algorithmically generated. But you can click onto that number to see what a version of that question type might look like, to then make an assignment out of all of these or use it for a tailored review session in class. You have all of the same information for web tests as well, and you can also review missed questions or review questions per student and question one for all students at one time through that web test tool. So we have a lot of ways for you to get a better idea of how students are using the software and how they're specifically performing. But this report right here kind of does everything all in one. So I highly recommend, if you are a current Hawks user, to go and check it out if you haven't used it much just yet.
Taylor, sorry to interrupt, but we are starting to run out of time. So I want to make sure we have time for just a couple of quick questions. Are you ready to jump into questions now?
Yeah, questions.
Okay, excellent. And before we go into them, I do want to send everyone, or just give everyone, a quick reminder that the link to enter to win one of the 3 $25 Amazon gift cards is available in the chat. So if you haven't done so already, please take a minute to enter to win. We'll be spinning the prize wheel right after the Q&A. So I just have a few quick questions for you here, Taylor. And I think if you can keep sharing your screen, that would be perfect. So one of the questions is, if an instructor needs to extend due dates, where would they do that? Could you quickly touch on where to do that for the whole class at once, as well as individually for students?
Yeah, that sounds great. So if you're wanting to extend due dates or batch shift your due dates, let's say, such as yesterday, a tornado came across the Southeast and you had to cancel class and everybody needed to go take shelter, and you want everything pushed back one day. Underneath lesson due dates, and we'll go into your course, you have this shift multiple due dates option. So you could take the first lesson, which maybe it's in the middle of the semester, but I'm going to use this first date as my example. You would say, I want to shift this date back to January 26th. So I would put in the first lesson here, put in January 26th, and then every single lesson after that is also going to shift forward by one day. So that's how you would batch do that for any of your sections across the board if you're really pushing things out for all students. And then for the individual student, you can easily do that through reports and all student scores. So all student scores is where you would go to pull up any one of your sections. And as you can see, we have a lessons, quizzes, and test category automatically created here, but you can just expand any one of those categories. see that this student had submitted it late, but you really want to give them full credit, or maybe they haven't completed it yet, what you can do is edit that due date for that particular student, select the new due date right from here and save, and they would see that correspond to their side, or additionally also just edit that score from here. And you can do the same thing over here or with quizzes. You can do that on an individual student basis through those web test settings.
Taylor, would you actually be able to point out those student-specific settings in the web test settings for us?
Yes. So with any assignment that you select, as I had mentioned, you will need to set up those general settings. But if you do have a specific student that needs an extension or a different time window in which to take their test, you can set up those specific settings for a specific student here through student settings by test. So this is heavily used if you have student athletes that kind of need to work around their schedule with travel and so forth. You could just extend anything or change those date ranges here. But also, just kind of while we're here, as another quick note, we also offer student settings by student. So if you needed to give accommodations such as time and a half for every test for one student, you could set that up here so that it applies to all other tests for that one student.
Thanks, Taylor. And just one last question here. Do we integrate with Canvas? Could you give a quick overview of just the platforms we are compatible with?
Yeah. Another great question, we do integrate with Canvas. We also integrate with Moodle, Blackboard, and Desire to Learn or Brightspace. What we offer with all of those integration options is the ability to sync over grades from the Hawk system into those systems, and then also a single sign-on option where students would see the Hawks Learning link posted in your course. They can select that and it would automatically take them to that main dashboard page of the Hawk system. So that's something that all of those offer.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Taylor. And that is all the time we have for questions this session. I know we're a minute or two over, so if you are interested in the prize wheel for the gift cards, feel free to stick with us for another moment or two. But if you do have any remaining questions that we weren't able to get to today, feel free to stop by the Hawks virtual booth to speak with a member of the Hawks team, and that'll be the most immediate way to get answers to your questions.